Abdul El-Sayed, candidato demócrata al Senado por Míchigan, acaba de ganar hace unos días una primaria clave, pese a enfrentar más de 60 millones de dólares en gasto externo. Quédense hasta el final porque ahora irá en contra del republicano Mike Rogers en una carrera que puede cambiar completamente el control del Senado. Y rápidamente no olviden suscribirse al canal para entender todo el contexto de lo que está pasando en Estados Unidos en español. Comencemos. Esta es una gran alerta. Abdul El-Sayed ganará la elección primaria del Partido Demócrata para el Senado por Míchigan. Permítame repetir, Abdul El-Sayed va a ganar las primarias del Senado de Míchigan, derrotando a su oponente Haley Stevens, a quien, se le dio muchísimo dinero, más de 60 millones de dólares por parte de grupos externos. Abdul El-Sayed se encamina a la victoria. NBC también lo anunció hace unos días. Marjorie McMorrow, quien era una de las oponentes en las primarias demócratas, se retiró temprano dejando, la contienda entre dos personas, Abdul El-Sayed y Haley Stevens. Y McMorrow acaba de salir hace unos días respaldando muy firmemente a Abdul El-Sayed, justo después de que lo que podemos ver, hacer oficial el anuncio de que va a ganar las primarias del Senado de Míchigan e irá a enfrentarse al extremista de MAGA, Mike Rogers. Marjorie McMorrow también acaba de publicar hace unos días un mensaje. McMorrow respalda a Abdul El-Sayed. Felicidades a Abdul El-Sayed por ganar la primaria demócrata de Míchigan para ser nuestro nominado al Senado de los Estados Unidos. Abdul cuenta con todo mi respaldo y apoyo. Esa fue una primaria brutal. Créanme, lo sé porque he estado presente en ellas. Y Donald Trump y Mike Rogers cuentan con quien nos mantendremos divididos. Demostremos que están equivocados, derrotando a Mike Rogers y recuperando todo el país. Este fue el momento en el que NBC hizo el anuncio también. Miren por favor.
This is an NBC News special report. I'm Steve Kornacki. American voters in 5 states hit the polls on Tuesday, and I've got some major results to share with you, starting in the state of Michigan, where Abdul El-Sayed has won the Democratic primary for the United States Senate. He defeats Congresswoman Haley Stevens. This was a very close race here. You can see there are still a scattering of votes to be counted, but El-Sayed currently leading Stevens by 2 points.
Como publica Teddy Schaefer, aquí están los números finales de The New York Times sobre Haley Stevens en contra de Abdul El-Sayed. 6 grupos extremos gastaron 62 millones de dólares a favor de Stevens, dándole una ventaja de gasto de 9-1 sobre Abdul. La mitad de ese gasto de Stevens, 32 millones de dólares, provino del Super PAC, del IPAC. De IPAC gastó más de lo que cualquier otro grupo individual ha gastado en una primaria federal demócrata en todo este ciclo. Ahora, MS Now y otros hablaron con los votantes durante el día y los votantes hablan sobre, cómo no quieren que su dinero se use para financiar guerras sin fin. No quieren que su dinero financie al régimen genocida de Benjamin Netanyahu. Escuchamos a estos votantes tras votantes y obviamente los votantes también estaban enfocados en la asequibilidad y evidentemente, ¿qué creen? La asequibilidad. No quieren centros de datos en sus vecindarios, no quieren que les quiten la atención médica, no quieren un régimen autoritario que encubra redes de infantil y no quieren la Gestapo del ICE y la patrulla fronteriza merodee por sus calles y acaben con la vida de personas por todo el país. Permítanme compartir ahora mismo como la reportera de MS Now habló con una votante blanca de Míchigan que se considera una votante moderada, y es por aquí lo que dijo y el porqué del voto a Abdul El-Sayed. Miren por favor.
I just wouldn't want a single of our family's tax-paying dollars to go towards something like that. It's like giving money to violence.
So would you support a Senate candidate, in this case Haley Stevens, who's more of a moderate like you tend to like, but would that be enough?
That would definitely turn me off as 100%. I couldn't. I would vote for a communist first.
Más votantes hablando aquí con MS Now. Miren, por favor.
Are you the last one of the day?
Yes.
I think we should talk quietly still because we're in the voting place and we're not really supposed to talk politics, but how did it go?
It went pretty good, I think.
How were you the last one and why?
Let me tell you, I started to vote earlier this morning, but I went to the wrong place.
And so you finally made it at the very last second.
At the very last
It's a
second.
huge contest. Yeah. Abdul El-Sayed versus Haley Stevens. Who got your vote in here?
Abdul.
Why?
I just chose Abdul. I think he...
Are you ready for a change? Is that what this is about?
Definitely
One of the things I want to ask you about is, and tell me your name again, I'm so sorry.
Donna.
Donna. Would you go for Haley Stevens in the general election if it wasn't Abdul El-Sayed? I've heard from people time and again that in the general, they're ready for the other candidate if their preferred candidate tonight doesn't win.
Yes.
And that's because why?
One again, just ready for a change.
and Donald Trump and the Republican Party is what you're wanting to change.
Yes.
Donna, you're a pleasure. I'm glad you got in. The doors were closed right as you walked in the door. I'm going to let you go home. Donna, it's nice to meet you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you so much.
I appreciate you.
Okay, be safe.
All right, now.
See ya.
Y pensé que este fue un análisis muy interesante por parte del cofundador del Progressive Change Campaign Committee, Adam Green. Esta es la perspectiva que plantea cuando estuvo en C-SPAN, y luego les voy a mostrar el discurso que dio, y luego les quiero mostrar y les voy a mostrar el discurso que dio Abdul El-Sayed antes de que cualquiera, incluso CNN o cualquiera, pudiera hacer el anuncio oficial. Abdul El-Sayed salió y dijo, bueno, y dio un discurso, esencialmente sabía que iba a ganar cuando lo dio, pero miren por favor.
Michigan is ground zero in the battle for the future of the Democratic Party. What we have here are two competing theories of the case for electability in the general election, and we consider this a chips on the table moment. One theory of the case, the Chuck Schumer theory of the case, is that the best way to be electable in the swing state is to have a status quo politician. In this case, Haley Stevens, Congresswoman, whose campaign is basically being bankrolled to the tune of $60 million by APAC, crypto, big insurance, big pharma, big energy companies. And for some reason, that's supposed to appeal to independent voters who don't like either political party and think they're both bought and paid for. Our alternative theory of the case is that Dr. Abdul El-Sayed is a shake up the system economic fighter. People believe him when he says he wants to fight to get money out of politics, put money in people's pockets, and fight for Medicare for all. And we believe that that is the kind of message, especially in this outsider moment, that is needed to attract independent voters in November. So what we're seeing tonight is a Democratic Party referendum on that question. We believe that if Abdul El-Sayed defeats $60 million of outside spending, it will send a signal to every Democratic politician across the country that it is okay to cross very powerful interests because you can still win if the people are on your side. That is what is needed, especially at this moment as we're fighting Donald Trump. And then in November, when he wins this swing Senate seat, we hope it sends a really important message to some of the voters that you and I have both met on the campaign trail, scared, well-meaning electability voters who just don't want to mess things up in 2028 as they select a presidential contender in 27-28. And we hope that they realize, oh, it's okay to vote for someone inspiring. Because yes, you can have a former CIA operative named Alyssa Slotkin in a place like Michigan, but you can also have a guy named Abdul El-Sayed who is fighting for Medicare for all and fighting to shake up the system. So that is our goal with this race, and the stakes could not be higher.
De acuerdo, ahora déjenme mostrarles el discurso de victoria de Abdul El-Sayed, aunque él no sabía del todo en ese momento que se iba a hacer el anuncio por la noche, como lo hemos anunciado, como lo ha anunciado incluso la NBC, como lo han anunciado otros, pero esto es lo que Abdul El-Sayed tuvo que decir. Miren por favor.
But I also want to speak to this moment. We've got 13 weeks to defeat Mike Rogers. And however we might feel about the campaign we've just come through, I want you to understand that it pales in comparison to the cynicism, in comparison to the corporatism, in comparison to the lies that Mike Rogers and Donald Trump are going to tell. There is so much more that unites us. However much we might disagree with our Democratic opponent, there is so much more that unites us than divides us. And so to all of our supporters here tonight, watching on TV, tomorrow we begin to mend fences. Whatever happens tonight, we have a responsibility to assure that we unite to make sure that Mike Rogers never sees the inside of the U.S. Senate. And I'm going to ask, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And I'm going to ask all of us, as we think about where we go from here, always magnanimity in victory. So if your instinct is to be like, I told you, no. Let's come together to build a movement that's even bigger, that's even stronger, that's even more powerful, that reaches into the very depths of this state, that reminds us the best of who we are and who we can be. That is the commitment I want all of us to be making as we leave here tonight.
Aquí tenemos más de Abdul El-Sayed. Miren el clip, por favor.
And because you had the audacity to believe in that, you know that the billionaires, the corporations, and the special interests, they weren't going to give up lightly. We all knew they were going to spend their money. We didn't know they were going to spend $70 million of their money. We didn't know that they were going to outspend us $11 to $1. And yet we're still standing. They want to tell us that here in Michigan, we're a purple state. That somehow everybody walks around wondering, I wonder where I stand on a left-right spectrum. When really, up and down the state, what you hear is, I wonder how I can afford my rent. I wonder how I can afford my groceries. I don't know what'll happen if I get sick because I can't afford my deductible. We are not a purple state. We are a state in need of a movement to take our politics back. And despite their spending, despite their lies told in ad after ad after ad after ad on TV, we're walking into the rest of this evening with a 3-point lead.
Ahora, entrevistaron a Abdul El-Sayed a principios de la elección y justo hacia el comienzo de la catastrófica guerra de Donald Trump, y tuvimos una conversación al respecto. La verdad fue interesante. Miren este fragmento, por favor.
And I appreciate you covering this and being as extensive in the coverage as you have been. This is an illegal, unjustified war, but somebody's got to pay for it, and that someone is us. We're paying for it to the tune of hundreds of billions of dollars and counting. Money that should be spent to provide for our own children here at home. You mentioned the destruction of a girls' school by an American missile. We paid for that missile that got dropped on those kids and dropped on their school. Now imagine what would happen if instead of dropping a missile on a school over there, we were dropping that same money into schools over here, or investing in our infrastructure, or addressing the fact that people can't afford their health care. There is an opportunity cost to war. Donald Trump has never had to actually pay for it. He's never put anything of himself on the line. So for him, this is just another day doing what Donald Trump does, which is enriching himself and his family at the cost of the American public. I just filled up my gas, and this should be the least of our worries. But think about this: $1 more per gallon of gas every single day that people have to fill up across this economy. It is increasing the price, not just at the gas pump, but I looked at diesel. That's $5 a gallon. Diesel is what powers our trucks. Diesel is what takes our foodstuffs into our grocery stores. You're going to feel that cost in our grocery stores. And so, talking about the destruction of people's lives over there, the destruction of our livelihoods here, all for what? So Trump and his goons can trade on the probability of stock markets that they're manipulating to make money from themselves while the rest of us pay. It is insane. It's wrong. It needs to stop, and we need to hold him and everybody who empowered this accountable.
Y luego tuvo una parte de discusión sobre la que intentaron reconocer la humanidad compartida y cómo MAGA trata tan cruelmente a los seres humanos y cómo son un culto a la muerte, básicamente. Miren, por favor.
I'm a doctor by training, and there's something about medical training that reminds you that humans are visceral. We're real. We're flesh and blood. Our temperature is all the same. The way that skin feels, we all know that feeling. When you look in somebody's eyes, you know what that lights up inside of you. This administration is the most online administration we've ever seen. And there's something about the online world that I think decimates our foundational humanity. It makes us think that everything in the world is transacted via screens. When children are killed in their schools, those are real children's bodies that go cold. When we fail to provide people healthcare in this country, they die earlier. Those are loved ones that we'll never again get to see. And that is what's happening across the board. This gamification of this war, the kinds of memes that they're putting up there, they're meant to continue to draw upon the worst instincts of what an online fake simulacrum of reality is meant to make us think about everyday people who suffer the cost of this. And I think it's really important for all of us to remember our humanity in this. These are choices that are being made about real people, and they're being made at the cost of helping and protecting real people here at home. Real people pay the price of this. And so when we hold our mother's hand and look in the eyes of our grandparents and cuddle our children, just remember that that is the same human emotion that we ought to be thinking about every single time this administration drops a bomb or empowers a foreign government to drop bombs or fails to provide for our own kids or our families here at home. That humanity is what suffers. And we need a politics that reminds us that people are at the heart of what our government ought to be about empowering. We need to be spending our money here at home to make sure our people can afford healthcare and our kids can go to good schools and we can breathe clean air and drink clean water. And at the same time, we also need to make sure that our tax dollars are not being used to devastate the lives and livelihoods of people abroad. That's what we're trying to build in this movement here in Michigan, a politics of people, by people, for people, rather than of special interests and corporations and for them. And because that's unfortunately what's led us into this mess. Make no mistake, this war is, yes, Donald Trump's to own, but it was pushed by a number of special interests who make a lot off of this. Whether you're talking about the weapons manufacturers who are making money hand over fist off this war, or you're talking about AIPAC, a MAGA-funded special interest group that is meant to align our interests with the interests of a foreign government abroad. We don't benefit, but there are people who do, and we've got to make sure that those folks have less power in our government. Otherwise, that humanity that you're talking about is going to continue to be forgotten in the public policy that we push.
Ahí lo tienen, amigos. Abdul El-Sayed va a ganar las primarias demócratas del Senado de Míchigan, derrotando a su oponente Haley Stevens. Ya vieron el respaldo de Marjorie McMurrow a Abdul El-Sayed justo ahí. Así que creo que no me queda nada más que decir que felicidades a Abdul El-Sayed, excelente hombre, excelente candidato, excelente persona. Ojalá que todo le salga muy bien. Y desde acá, las mayores felicidades de parte mía y de mi equipo. Y por ahora, amigos, acabamos de llegar al final del video. Espero que les haya gustado. Si fue así, no olviden dejarme en los comentarios qué opinan ustedes. También recuerden que si me quieren apoyar de alguna forma, créanme que suscribiéndose al canal, compartiendo el video, comentándole, dándole like a este video, me apoyan como ustedes no se lo imaginan. En serio, muchas gracias y espero verlos en el siguiente video. Adiós.